Everybody here has a different emotional attachment to their practice. And it becomes very challenging to some people, more so with others that love their practice and have a great passion for dentistry. And I'll give you a couple examples of dentists that I've worked with in the last few years and show you how the emotional attachment has affected them. One of them I'll call Roger, is a person that I've known for many years, probably 20 plus years. And about 5 years ago, he called me on the phone and says, "Buck, I think I'm ready to retire. I want you to come to my office after hours when all the staff is gone, and I want to talk to you about how I'm going to proceed on my retirement." This gentleman, one person, a 3-day work week from 7 to 3, was collecting $1.9 million every year for the last 12 years. Now, financially, this gentleman was in good shape. He was paying taxes on $1.1 million. He was in good shape financially. He had a great retirement plan portfolio. He owned a lot of real estate. He told me he was worth over $15 million. Do you think financially he's ready to retire? I think so. But he says, "Buck," he says, "you've got to help me out." He says, "I have no clue what to do when I retire." He says, "I am scared to death. I don't know how to handle it. I don't know how to face it." He says, "I think I'm okay financially." And I said, "Yeah, I think you're okay. No problem there." But he just couldn't get over this emotional hump of letting go of his practice. So he says, "I need some time to think about this." And I said, "Well, that's fine. When you're ready, call me." I didn't hear from him for over a year. In about a year or so, he called me back and asked me to come back in and see him again after hours. I went back to his office, had the same tax returns plus a new year, and the scenario was the same thing. He was ready to retire financially, but emotionally, he could not let go of that practice because he had no plan of what he was going to do with the rest of his life, for one. And so the same scenario, he said he'd call me, and I didn't hear back from him again for a couple years. Last November, he calls me, and he says, "I'm ready to sell, and I want to sell by December 31st. And I says, "You know, that's pushing it pretty tight. I don't know if we can get this done by then." I says, "The paperwork's probably going to take you 2-3 weeks. He said, "You get the paperwork to me, and I'll have it back to you in 5 days." And sure enough, he did. I had a buyer, a husband and wife from St. Louis, both dentists. He used to live in Portland. They met at Creighton University, and they went back there to practice with her father. That didn't work out real well, so they set up and bought another practice over there. They sold that practice. They had cash in the bank. They wanted to move back to Portland in the worst way. And so I called them. They flew in. They reviewed the practice. They wanted the practice. He was ready to sell. So we thought we could put this all together by December 31st. December 24th, I get a call from him. He says, "I can't do it." He said, "You got to give me another 30 days to think about this." And I says, "You know, we've flown these people in. They've flown back. They're ready to make the move. They've got the movers going. This is a done deal." And he says, "I'm not ready." So 30 days, I called him back. We talked, and he says, "I'm not going to do it." And so this is an emotional turmoil and a tug-of-war that's going on back and forth in this gentleman's head. He's now put it back on the table. We've got a signed letter of intent with the buyers from St. Louis, but I'm not holding my breath that's going to happen yet. If you love dentistry and you enjoy doing it, and you can be fairly profitable and live off what you're making every year, then practice dentistry until you just can't do it anymore. And when you're done practicing and you've got maybe a couple hundred charts left, you go down the street to some young dentist that wants to get a good start, and you give those charts to him. There's nothing wrong with doing that. But the majority of dentists that I work with don't want to practice dentistry in their 70s and 80s. So they need to have their financial plan in place, and they emotionally need to be ready to make that step as well. And only you can determine where you're at with this, not your colleagues telling you when they retired and you should retire. You need to retire on your own terms.